Hi, this is Andy Hoffman of CryptoGoldCentral.com, the sound money blog of the 21st century, in which I write daily of my vision of the future of money, in which Bitcoin is the center of the universe. Try my free 7-day trial membership and contact me at ahoffman at CryptoGoldCentral.com to arrange cryptocurrency or precious metal consultations or get details on how to safely split Bitcoin forks. Today's one-on-one episode, the 27th, features one of the most knowledgeable and well-known Bitcoiners, Kenn Bosak, who can be found at Kenn Bosak, or at Kenneth Bosak, and his YouTube channel, Kenn Bosak. For those wondering what's been going on this week, my originally scheduled guest, Money Triggs, has had no electricity in the part of Spain he lives in due to major rainstorms. No matter, there's so many brilliant commentators in the Bitcoin space, I can ask the same questions and get equally insightful answers. We have so much to discuss today, so welcome, Kenn, to One-on-One.
How goes it? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thanks for coming on short notice. This is going to be a really good episode because I have so many really important topics to get to. Now, of course, there are so many topics that I was tempted to skip the current state of the cryptocurrency markets, but it's just so dynamic, and in my view, it's on the cusp of a new potentially parabolic surge, so there's just no way I can avoid it. The way I see it, the crypto market is done, or nearly so, consolidating the historic, in many ways bubble-like price explosion that occurred from November to December in Bitcoin and December to January in alts. Crypto investors, particularly the thousands who entered the space last fall, have become so jaded to extreme price movements, it's difficult for them to comprehend a healthy consolidation. Often consolidations take years, but in Bitcoin's case, a few months at most, given A, its typical January dip, and B, the violently bullish fundamentals that have institutional and retail investors alike rapidly raising their bids. Moreover, Bitcoin dominance has been rising, as of this morning to a more than 2-month high of nearly 42%. As after the epic boom and bust of December and January, investors are becoming far more discerning about what they buy. To that end, Kenn, what's your view of the current crypto market conditions for both Bitcoin and altcoins?
It's like you said, it's consolidating after that recent dip. Hindsight, got to call it a dip now that it's come back up. But yeah, we've seen an all-time high of almost 20,000 in Bitcoin, and it dipped down to about $6,000. Now back up to a little over 11,000 in less than 2 months. Yeah, I can see how that would freak out the traditional investors. But again, in crypto, this is pretty normal, and I think that the price increase recently is more due to the technology advances. We're seeing the Lightning Network get attention on the main net in many aspects now. Many exchanges are incorporating SegWit into their exchanges and wallets. We even have batch transactions happening more frequently now. I think that these steps towards bettering Bitcoin and making it better and faster, and all these things, even Coinbase Commerce, making it possible for retailers like Shopify to accept cryptocurrencies, that makes it possible for anybody, because anybody can open a Shopify store to accept crypto. So it's getting more and more of that mainstream attention, which begets that mainstream adoption, which begets that price increase. So it's almost unavoidable. And I like when people are afraid of that price dip when Bitcoin goes down after they bought at such a high, when they get deterred from buying it because they bought at a high. If you like something so much and you probably bought Bitcoin for a long-term hold, if it does dip for a short period, it looks to me as if it's on sale. I don't understand the mentality behind those who are a little worried about something that they were going into as a long-term investment a day ago, freak out the next day when it goes down a little bit. Good luck for the next couple years holding, I guess.
Right. Well, and I'll get to altcoins in a second, but I'll just follow some of the things you just said. You know, the reason the consolidation is so quick is exactly the reasons you're talking about. You said all these great reasons that we'll go over in a second about all the things that are going on, but also no FUD. Where's the FUD? Is there, in fact, the whole time that we were going down, there was
You're
no
right,
FUD.
I'm seeing
yeah,
it.
I mean, they threw in, the South Koreans, everyone knew that was BS. But the point is, there's absolutely nothing wrong. You wake up every morning knowing nothing's going to be wrong. In fact, the way I've written about it lately, I said it's the only asset class where nothing can terribly go wrong. We're past those days. And again, you know, it was just a month ago where I was talking about game changers. In hindsight, I said 2017, the game changers were SegWit, and of course the Bcash fork not breaking up Bitcoin when everyone was scared it could. This year, I've said the game changer is going to be that the network will be dramatically faster and cheaper by year end. And it looks like it's dramatically faster and cheaper within a month's time. So it's really remarkable what is going on in such a short amount of time in the double dog years pace of Bitcoin growth.
Yeah, and the altcoins, I mean, it's funny because a lot of people were, you know, were holding their altcoin, their favorite altcoin, to a, you know, a high standard because it had cheap fees. And that's it. Now Bitcoin's back to those under 10-cent fees. I really want to hear the arguments about why your altcoin is so much better than Bitcoin when it's not just cheaper to move.
Especially when the biggest competitor, with quotes around a Bcash, their reason to be, all they say is that we're cheaper, and but you're not cheaper.
No, it takes a lot longer for those confirmations to confirm. I've done a little experiment with Bcash and Bitcoin, and I think I'm going to expand it to like Dash, Litecoin, and things like that, because Bitcoin's back in action. I mean, it's confirming before the second block after
2 minutes, Ken. 2 minutes. I did a tweet on it. Someone sent Bitcoin the other day to me. 2 minutes confirmation. 53 cents cost.
That's exactly what I've been like telling people. You know, the whole thing that we were dealing with before, that wasn't how Bitcoin works. That was how Bitcoin works when it's being attacked, when it's being harassed, when it's, you know, being taken advantage of. That was the Bitcoin we were dealing with after that fork. Now this is Bitcoin going back to its, you know, level playing field. You know, we don't have to worry about these attacks and these spams right now. It could come back, we don't know, but right now doesn't look like it's going to be cost effective. And this whole my coin's cheaper to move than your coin argument seems like it might be dying down, and we can get back to the fundamentals of the technology and talk about what's really under the hood, how bigger blocks eventually will hit Moore's law and become impossible to scale and keep going. And secondary layers like side chains like SegWit, Lightning Network, atomic swaps, all these things that are coming to Bitcoin will never come to Bitcoin Cash. Not possible. So those advances that are coming to Bitcoin will only come to Bitcoin, possibly Litecoin first, but not to Bitcoin Cash because they opted out of these options to advance in other directions. So when people start to understand that besides the transaction fees, what's really coming down the pipeline in Bitcoin's blockchain and what advances and features are coming, that's when we're going to start to get the real conversations. Because all we hear on Crypto Trader, MSNBC is Ripple's up $3, buy that shit. Ripple's down $2, sell that shit. They don't know what they're talking about. They're talking about, you know, the typical trader chart bullshit, but they're not talking about what's under the hood, making those charts really move.
Right. Well, look, I mean, when you think about it, again, the whole thing with other things are better because they're cheaper is ridiculous, because 99% of the use case of Bitcoin is the inherent value of what it is, not how fast you can move it. And 90% of the people who hold it right now have no interest in moving it, and certainly couldn't care less if they can move it in 2 minutes versus 20 minutes. Exactly. It really doesn't matter at all. But more importantly, you know, the things that, and again, you go to Bcash. Look, Bcash, people, is going down big. Okay, we've been talking about Bcash will be under 0.05 Bitcoin, and it's going to be susceptible to attacks. And remember, you know, this passive Bitcoin network that sat there and just allowed all this stuff to go on because it's decentralized. Well, it's got a grudge, and there will be blood in the water, and it will smell it, because Bcash is going to be in trouble. So if you think it's just going to be, oh yeah, it'll pump, it'll come back, everything. No, they're going to be in trouble. That thing is going to go under 0.05 at some point, and if things get bad enough, it could be susceptible to attack. And you know, again, the whole big blocks thing, the whole world knows it's not true. Big blocks, like you said, can't be done. Everyone, listen to my Rocky Palumbo one-on-one. Can't be done. You cannot scale on chain. You have to scale off chain, and all these things that we're talking about now, like the Lightning Network. Yes, it's great. We're seeing that they are being tested and work, but that's not what's making, as Ken says, that's not what's making it get faster. One, you have no mempool attacks because Bcash doesn't have the ammunition to even do it anymore. Jihan Wu is fighting his own battles.
So great.
And the other part of it is SegWit. Everyone, take a look at the chart of SegWit adoption. It just spiked from like 15% to 30%, because these exchanges like Coinbase and Bitfinex realize that they have to do it to remain competitive. Look, a year or two from now, we may not even need Coinbase and Bitfinex, but for now, they realize they have to do it, and voila, the network gets much slower and faster and cheaper. It's really remarkable. So Ken, we have the dominance going up. I mean, it's creeping up now. But remember, it was like 60% in December, and now it's only 41%. Are we going to get to 60% in the spring? I don't think that it's out of the question.
I don't think it's out of the question at all. I think what really did that was a little bit of that the upcoming forks of Bitcoin kind of really helped get that dominance towards Bitcoin. A lot of people were incentivized to maybe move their alts into Bitcoin, get that airdrop, you know, that dividend, and then re-diversify their portfolio back to where it was with their free money. But, you know, without that, plus, I mean, even if there are more forks, as we have seen, since Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold, Diamond, Private, it's starting to get less and less attention. People are caring less. Me personally, I did not pay any attention to the Bitcoin Private fork or the Litecoin Cash fork at all. I ignored it completely. And I think that's what most people are going to start to do. And I don't know if that whole forking, getting these dividend things is really going to get people to push their alt into Bitcoin. So I am a little worried about that. But I do think that when people realize that these forks of Bitcoin, they can't compete with Bitcoin, even if, like, a lot of people like to argue that, you know, it is faster, Bitcoin Cash or Bcash is faster, whatever. But if it had the same amount of users as Bitcoin did, it would never work. It would just come to a rusty halt. And that's what a lot of these other coins run into when they start to see that dominance go to them. They can't handle that scale like Bitcoin can. So I think when people realize that, you know, these altcoins aren't going to be the 10-year investment projects they thought they were, and Bitcoin is the long-term hold, we'll see that dominance go back towards that 60% increase. But right now, I do see people diversifying into those cheaper coins to hope they hit that 100x. We're still in that 1% adoption, and a lot of those people in the 1% are just investors that want to make more fiat. So we're still waiting to get more long-term holders in here that aren't just looking to make more dollars. They're just looking to make more crypto.
Well, these are amazing points, and we're going to get to the crypto dividend thing in a second. It was one of my topics, but you just segued perfect into it. Look, to me, there were two reasons that the price is that we had the movements we had later in the year. I mean, yes, you had people rushing first into Bitcoin to get the crypto dividends, because at the time it was huge. I mean, it wasn't just B Gold and I mean, people were genuinely excited about Super Bitcoin, Lightning Bitcoin, and that's even before all the other crap ones. That's even before B Diamond came around, and then all the other ones that are dead in the water. But the other thing was, once we had January 1st, that wall of institutional money that was long awaited, that I had for so long said is going to come January 1st, because that's when hedge fund starts. They came January 1st, and that's why the altcoins pumped like we've never seen before. Because it's not like if you're a hedge fund, I mean, you're a crypto hedge fund. You can't be like, okay, I'm just going to buy Bitcoin. Because your investors who are paying 2 and 20 will say, okay, I'll buy Bitcoin. You got to add value. So they bought everything, and there's not much else to buy. So what do you know? Everything goes up a lot, and then they all crashed. And that's why the second time around, Wall Street's going to be smarter, because they're going to realize we got to be more careful what we buy, because most of what we're buying is vaporware. As for the crypto dividends, and again, this is something that you, others, I mean, I've talked about this ad nauseum. When last year in the fall, everyone was saying 2018 is going to be the year of the Bitcoin fork. And I said, I don't really think that's the case, because even then we were starting to see diminishing returns. I mean, B Gold was pretty much a disaster. It would have been a much bigger disaster if Trezor and Ledger didn't feel the pressure to put them on their you know, to store them. But I mean, B Gold lost its use case minute one, and trades.
The wallet on their website was stealing private keys. I feel like that was kind of like the nail in the coffin for them, man. And I feel like that woke a lot of people up when they were like excited about free money. Nothing is free. If there's a coin that exists, it just took market cap away from Bitcoin. There's now a new market cap in the crypto space that is taking value out of Bitcoin's market cap and putting its value into its market cap. So it's not free. It definitely isn't free. It's free in the sense that if you hold it and that market cap plus your Bitcoin, you add it together. That's what one Bitcoin would be worth if all these forks didn't occur.
Well, if you got rid of them when you could, look, if you got rid of Bcash at any point, 0.1 and above, and you still can, that's, you know, a net positive, because ultimately Bcash is just going to fall to nothing. And all the other ones really are immaterial. I mean, there's not a single one of them that B Gold's about 1.5%. I mean, none of them are even material, and they are all going to go down in value from even where they are right now, because, as you said, there was, you know, this diminishing returns. Look, Bcash was the only reason that was worth a lot was because of who was behind it, but his reputation is dying, and the use case of Bcash is being well known, and then all the other ones everyone knows doesn't do anything, and we'll get to Be Private in a second, which I despise everything about. Me too. But you know, I hope people are dumb enough to bid it up so I can get rid of it. But then again, I don't think I'll be able to get rid of it, because I doubt that anyone will ever support it. Bittrex is not going to support it, and I doubt that Trezor is going to support it. So you think I'm going to risk my Bitcoin going after this crap? But anyway, you know, it's like today I was listening to Tone Vase. He actually interviewed Richard Hart. I don't know why. It's like he has a soft spot in his heart for this con man. But he, you know, Richard Hart's going, well, you know, there's going to be more and more forks, and Tone just put it simply, said, look, when Bcash goes down from 11% down to 5%, which it will, and lower, that value that gets subtracted will be more than any value that will ever be created by a Bitcoin fork in history, past or present.
I wanted to talk a little bit about that Be Private thing, because I was just so, I started to look into it, and I was just so taken back that it was a hybrid fork. I keep doing air quotes, but that's like crypto world right now, air quote forever. But yeah, so I wanted to talk a little bit about that. I thought that was an interesting pump for ZClassic. Like, obviously a good attempt at pumping ZClassic. I kind of did trade a little bit on this, so I bought a little bit, sold it way early during the rise up because of that. It was cheaper to buy 10. Well, it was the same where you could buy 10 ZClassic or 1 Bitcoin, and you get 1-to-1 Be Private. So what would you do? Would you buy Bitcoin or would you buy ZClassic?
No, 100. You'd have to buy 100 ZClassic.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's a come up. Yeah. Oh, I was off by a 0. That makes me even more mad. I mean, it just literally looked like a clear pump for a ZClassic. Very, 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 very clear. And people got caught up in it. Hey, buy ZClassic. Buy it. Hold it till the fork. Hold it till the snapshot. I probably would have sold it right before the snapshot, because who cares about the dividend when you just made a billion% profit on this?
It went from basically $5 to 167.
That was insane. And every YouTuber is to blame for this. This is why I didn't talk about it. I didn't make one YouTube video about this. I didn't even talk about it on Facebook, Twitter, anywhere, because I was worried about people buying ZClassic off of this, you know, FOMO that everyone's putting out there about this new coin that's forking, and everyone was incentivizing buy ZClassic. You know, you can get more for your dollar this way. And no, you'll get more for your dollar, maybe, but then when you compare it to Satoshis at the end of the week, you're screwed. You lost money. You lost Bitcoin. You may have made dollars, but you lost Satoshis. And if you can't see that you're losing money that way, get out, run, get out of the crypto space, because you may be happy today, but in 2 years, when you see Bitcoin at $200,000 and you saw that you made 10 grand in profit, you're going to be really pissed you didn't just hodl.
Yeah, well, here's my take on it. Because again, when it initially came out, the concept, I said it's interesting in that they're trying some kind of new thing, but I wasn't originally aware of how this whole ZClassic thing worked.
Sell all your Bitcoin, buy ZClassic, sell all your Bitcoin, buy ZClassic, you'll get the snapshot and you'll be fine. But then ZClassic dumps and you can't buy back 50% of your Bitcoin now. So
I mean, to me, the more I think about this, and everyone, you should look at the 2 articles that I put on Steemit the other two days. I mean, really, really coming down on Be Private. The second one, which was yesterday, is called something like Why I Hate Be Private, Countless Reasons, and Why I Hope It Succeeds. One, and that one is so I can dump it quickly, even though I know, I'm telling everyone, you're not going to get to split this. Bittrex has already said they're not even going to support trading. trading,
I think
let alone
Koinami said they'll support it, which blew my mind. Koinami said that
in
if you
South
hold,
Korea. Is that Koinami in South Korea?
I have the app on my phone. It's a wallet, and I got an email from them
Yeah.
saying that if you hold Bitcoin or ZClassic, they'll support it. And I was almost mad at them for saying they supported it. I was
Well,
like, what?
someone will do it. I mean, look, there's so many exchanges, and some of them are they're trying to get market share, and some of them are so scammy and dangerous to start with that they'll try anything. But we're talking about legitimate. The fact that Bittrex is the #1 trader of ZClassic, and they're not going to give Bitcoin holders be private, and they won't even trade be private, shows you how little they think of it. And of course, look, I honestly don't. I wouldn't be surprised if Trezor and Ledger don't ever support anything else, because it's just not worth the risks to them.
I'm with you. Yep.
So me as a Bitcoin holder, I'm like, okay, great, I'll get be private, whatever, but I'm not going to actually get it. And as for these other people, the more I think about it, you think about what Rajaver and CNBC and Coinbase did, the insider trading that went into that despicable thing, which destroyed all their reputations back in January. To me, this is the same thing that just happened here. When you realize that the be private people knew before everyone else this whole ZClassic thing, they were loading up on ZClassic, yep. I'm sure,
100%.
at $5 and selling it at $150. Meanwhile, the rest of the people, I love when people go, "Oh yeah, well I got be private. It's great. I got it. I got ZClassic early and I sold it." No. Look where the volume is. The average person paid way over $100 for ZClassic, and now ZClassic is like $10. So people lost huge amounts of money. Moreover, as you're saying, no, they didn't lose money. They lost Bitcoin, because you can't buy ZClassic with cash. So, and then they say, well, but you get be private to compensate for it. Okay, you get it, but you already lost a huge amount of money in ZClassic. And more importantly, who says it be private is going to be worth anything? Bittrex is telling you that they're not going to support it. And to me, what's so great about this coin? They're going to compete with Zcash. They're going to compete with Monero V. They're going to compete with, oh yeah, Bitcoin down the road.
Bitcoin Dark.
Bitcoin Dark, everything. Who cares? And then again, the guy who's running it is a Bcash guy. I wouldn't trust a Bcash guy to do anything. Certainly not to put my money in his experiments. And he didn't even want to allow non-SegWit addresses to get be private.
I wonder if he intentionally left out some kind of replay bug or attack or some kind of double spend thing. So if you were to move your be private, it could pull your Bitcoin with it, and it would be like, "See, I told you Bcash was a better option."
Yeah.
Who knows, man? I mean, you got to be careful with that hidden agenda from these developers. Like it's kind of getting to that point.
Nothing would surprise me about be private, which is forking right now, and it's like, yeah, it'll trade somewhere. I mean, everything trades somewhere. You could be the crappiest coin in the world, and a bunch of crappy exchanges will take you, but none of the legitimate ones will. And again, who cares about this coin? To me, I think it's great, because it's going to look, as you're saying, the concept of the fork, and Tone saying and I'm saying is pretty much dead already. And this might just kill it off, because I think it's already a disaster between ZClassic and what Bittrex is saying. And I don't believe for a second it's going to be worth much at all. And I think it's going to have hurt a lot more people than it helped. But but for Bitcoin people holders, doesn't matter at all. In fact, it's going to make Bitcoin stronger. And the thing that's interesting, everyone knows that I'm into B Rhodium, which is going to start trading in a few weeks. That's an airdrop. It's not a Bitcoin fork. And you get it for free, and there's no risk to it. And if it's not worth anything, so what? No one, skin off anyone's backs. No one got hurt in the process.
And like airdrops.
Airdrops is the future. And more importantly, airdrops with use cases. You have to have a use case for an altcoin to survive, especially as Bitcoin gets stronger. What do you think, Kenn Bosak?
I love airdrops. I mean, that is the actual free money, right? I mean, it's risk-free in a sense. It already exists. It's not competing with anything, and we would hope. I mean, what would be the point in the airdrop then? But I like it. I think it's a different approach than the ICO route, where you want to raise funds to get users to make your coin, being used. You got to get it out there. You have to have people trading it. You have to have it being moved. And if nobody invests in your ICO, nobody's going to hold it, nobody's going to trade it, nobody's going to move it. So if you just gave it away for free, the market will, it's like one of that statement, if you build it, they will come. It's that exact thing with crypto airdrops. If you drop it and they will come and they will trade it, and your coin will have, you know, a market, a use case, or well, hopefully a use case, but users behind it. And I recently, I kind of looked into an airdrop, shameless plug, I guess, zero waste advocacy, where they're trying to like incentivize recycling and make it possible so that dumpsters aren't picked up unless they're actually full, instead of wasting the gas and everything to get to a 20% full trash dumpster, whatever. I was like, yo, that's awesome. And when we got to the point where I was like, so what's your ICO? And they were like, oh, it's an airdrop. And I was like, oh, so you're trying to make the world a better place by incentivizing recycling, and you're not asking for a handout with an ICO? I like that. It made me a little more comfortable spending the time looking into the project, because it didn't seem like it had that hidden agenda that it was just gonna, like, I'm from Philly, so I'm used to this, where you're sitting down talking to somebody, having a great conversation, and then they ask you for money. You know what I mean? That's like how an ICO is. You really get to meet them. You're like, oh, I like you. Next thing you know, like, they ask you for money. Like,
yeah, well, I'm from New York. I'm from New York, and I worked on Wall Street. That's my whole life, is people
yeah, dude,
get money. So
the opposite of that conversation is the airdrop. You're sitting there, you're talking to somebody, and they slip 20 bucks into your pocket.
Yeah.
And you're like, what just happened? What is this weird scenario?
See,
and I like it because it incentivizes me, the person who just got the airdrop, to talk about the project, right? Because now I'm a holder. I am invested for free, so all I have to do is give out the information and hope that the project takes off. So now they have free marketing. I like airdrops for so many reasons.
Yeah, look, and of course, airdrops are done for different reasons. Like, for instance, Bitcore, which is a small altcoin, I don't even know what they do. They've done two airdrops. The first one was extremely benign because it was kind of like Rhodium. You just had to sign your public addresses, and they gave it to you for free. And the reason they did it was simply it was almost like a secondary offering of a stock. But in this case, they were just putting it out into the hands of Bitcoin holders so they'd be aware of it and talk about it. And that way, I think it's worked. I mean, it's performed well, but I don't care what it does. But the fact is, they gave it to people for free, no strings attached, no danger to it. Mm-hmm. All you had to do was sign your messages. And I think that definitely helped, because Bitcoin is the center of the universe, and Bitcoin holders have the most crypto money and crypto mind share, and it worked.
Yeah, you can't ask me to buy your altcoin with my Bitcoin. You know, that's a weird conversation. But if you give it to me for free, you know?
Yeah. Again, forks are not free anymore. I mean, Bcash and BGold were sort of free in that the Trezor helped you get them without issues. Now no one, they're not going to help you with anything. But on top of that, you know, those things, Bcash turned out to be malicious, and then these other guys are not even worth anything. So if you try to get them, there are ways to get them. You're going to take a lot of danger for very little gain. In this case, they're just giving it to you. Rhodium, which I think is going to be. I just tweeted. I think within a few months, Rhodium will be worth more than Private. Once Private's hype from its 40,000 Twitter followers wears off, because it's real. It's got a long-term use case. It's ultra scarce Bitcoin. It's benign, and it was given to me for free. I can sell it tomorrow if I want, and when I get it, I don't have to worry that it's going to be taken away from me. But more importantly, airdrops, like you said, they are benign. They are not taking from the Bitcoin network. They are incentivizing. They are incentivizing the public in a different way than these forks are. And so I think the most important thing is you're going to have a use case. Otherwise, because the Bitcoin dominance is going to keep going up after what we just saw. The only way things that are going to make it go down are altcoins with genuine use cases. And on that topic, go on. Well, here, I'm going to move into the next topic because it's very related. And this was something that Money Triggs brought up, but I know that you have strong opinion about it. I do. Basically, what he was saying was he went to the Ethereum Conference Summit in November. It was in Hong Kong. And that's basically Barry Silbert just holding a conference to try to get people to buy Ethereum Classic because he's got a big fund and a big position. But as it turns out, what Money Triggs was saying was that all of the big Chinese miners were there. Jian Wu was there. They were all there because there's a budding civil war going on in Ethereum. And those civil wars are going between the proof of work versus proof of stake that Vitalik wants, the decentralization versus centralization. People are uncomfortable with it. And of course, you have Monero, which is going to have a very contentious hard fork in a week or two of a coin, which if you look at the specs, is more attractive than Monero. I mean, it's got a cap, it's decentralized. So the point is, I think that all that we saw in Bitcoin for 2 years of scaling debates and people saying, oh, well, you need to buy Ethereum because they don't have a scaling debate. Well, guess what? It looks like the altcoins are going to be heading into some crypto civil wars. Do you think that I'm overestimating, or is the warts of the altcoins starting to come out?
Well, they can't compete with Bitcoin, so they have to compete with each other, right? I mean, that's
a good quote right there. I got to tweet that.
Put it on a bumper sticker. No, but that's how it really is. I mean, you can't compete with Bitcoin, so you're going to have to compete with each other, right? I mean, Ethereum and Ethereum Classic, or, you know, Monero or Dash, or whatever you want to compare things to. Nobody really likes to compare their altcoin to Bitcoin because it's a futile argument, and you won't win in the end. But that whole argument between Ethereum and Ethereum Classic, I'll be honest, I hedge my investments. If I buy Ethereum, I buy Ethereum Classic because I don't know in the end, proof of work versus proof of stake, what will work and which direction Ethereum will go versus Ethereum Classic. I know that they're going to stay proof of work and Ethereum will move to proof of stake. I don't know. We don't know. But until the moment where Ethereum hits that switch and we have options and we can see how dApps are being used on both platforms, how it affects it, we won't know until we try, right? So I wouldn't say for sure the proof of work versus proof of stake, which side of the argument I'm on. Even Bitcoin will go to proof of stake eventually. So I like proof of stake. I like proof of work. They have their benefits. That's why I'm a big fan right now of Decred. I've learned a little bit about coins that have multiple, you know, where they're staking, where they're proof of work, you know, where the developers get mining rewards as well as the miners, stuff like that. These altcoins that are battling it out for second place. That's it. Everyone's fighting to come in second place. And I would like to see Ethereum do that. I think Vitalik is a genius. And if he thinks something is best, odds are it's probably best. If we don't agree with them, it's because we don't understand, or we would have probably created Ethereum ourselves. I think, you know, we let the man have his say in where Ethereum goes. We see what happens. We compare it to Ethereum Classic. But about the whole like war in the altcoins, it's because they have no chance at competing with Bitcoin. They have to compete with each other. And it's going to be battled out for a while. I don't see this calming down for a long time. Not for a long time. And the money behind it, like you said, all the miners are there. They don't want anything to go from, like, you know, mining. That's their bread and butter. They're basically the next bank, you know, like we're right now threatening the bank's business model. When we get from proof of work, we move towards things like proof of stake. It's threatening that business model where they're like, wait, we don't get that reward. Are these fees going to be enough? Is there going to be enough transactions that really keep the lights on? They start to get worried, and you're not really a happy miner when you're worried about your income, your profitability, and all that. I am excited for the Monero fork that you mentioned. I do see a lot of the more reputable people talking about it than not. And that's what excites me. When you see the people that you look up to talking about something and you notice that they're not talking about the other thing that everybody else is talking about, the unreputable people, that's where I shift my focus. So I have been looking into Monero, and I will say this, Tone Vase told me to get Monero like in person, face to face. I had a shot. He looked me in his eye and said, Ken, everything's a shitcoin. Just get a little bit of Monero. And I didn't listen. So I would like to apologize to Tone and say, I'm sorry. I didn't listen to Told You So Tone when he tried to tell me so.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. The quote that you just gave about you can't compete with Bitcoin, so compete with each other. There are so many different angles to that. I think there's so much more to it than even how you're thinking about it, because the fact is there's a lot of bad people out there. And there's, more importantly, a lot of contentious people out there that need to have their voice heard. And when you start to see Bitcoin getting stronger and stronger, especially after what it was put through with this altcoin pump and the Bcash attacks, and you realize, oh my God, Bitcoin is getting stronger. We really can't even deal with this thing anymore. Then they turn their attentions inward and they're trying to get the scraps. And in some cases, maybe Monero V is a better idea. I mean, how much better could it be? It's better, but it's not like it's 10 times better. And then, of course, you know, look, I mean, Litecoin's being attacked. It's being attacked pretty pathetically. Litecoin Cash is worth like $4. But again, someone's just like, it's not even just a money grab anymore. There's actual deep contentions.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Yeah.
And of course, Ethereum has got, you know, it's got major problems. I mean, it was a perfect example. The pump to, what did it get to, 120 or $35 billion market cap, which would make it like the 5th or 6th largest tech company in the world. And really its platform I mean, it's there's a lot of competition in the space. There's a lot of questions as to what it can actually do and what its future is going to be. And then, of course, there's the whole ICO issue in general. So, I mean, there's a lot of contention going on. I mean, I think it's going to get worse. And the one that's going to be the best is going to be when it happens to Bcash, because part of, you know, look, Bcash is going to be under attack by all kinds of things. You know, these, what do you call them? These 50% attacks. They're vulnerable to everything as the hash rate just keeps going down and down and down, unless more and more people realize it's literally useless. The only thing it was useful for is Roger Ver can organize these pumps, colluding with his buddies and colluding with Coinbase and all that. And and those days are over. So, you know, you're talking about right now a situation where the altcoins are extremely, extremely vulnerable unless there's something that can really, really prove itself out there. And so I think that you're going to see Bitcoin dominance go up and up and up as these altcoins struggle and fight with each other for some time.
Yeah, not even just that, man. The ICO game, it's over. ICO game is over. 2018 is the year ICOs died. The SEC has sent out so many subpoenas to the people who have listed ICOs or have been a part of it, or even as a promoter, marketing, founder, CEO. All the people involved in ICOs have been subpoenaed by the SEC. I am excited for that 100% because that's the money that leaves Bitcoin. People buy Bitcoin to buy these ICOs. That's not happening anymore. They're going to be we're going to scare them straight. The SEC is going to scare these people straight until we find a way to get that regulated, I guess. I'm excited though, because ICOs are dead this year. Not one ICO registered with the SEC. Tell that to one traditional investor and see if they move $1 into an ICO this year.
Right. And it's good timing because you moved right into the next topic, because I was going to bring up the SEC and ICOs. And look, I agree with you on that topic on almost all fronts, but I think on a bigger picture is a bigger story to be told. Because look, when we think of ICOs now, we're for the most part thinking of, let's call it the .com equivalent, what it's been the last year, where it was just pure money grabs. This Bitcoin was doing well, and Ethereum came around with this platform that you can do this on. So everyone was just capitalizing and saying, send me Bitcoin and Ethereum because I have an idea. And most of the ideas were crap, and most of them were done completely in shady ways, money grabs, you name it. That it's across the board. Those days are over. But and yes, you're not going to see any more of these .com-ish type ICOs anytime soon. But the concept of ICO in general, and I just did a podcast on this last week. I think ICOs are going to, as a means of finance, and going to replace stocks and bonds. I mean, I think that 20, 30 years from now, or even less than that, there'll be no more stocks and bonds. It'll all be ICOs, meaning decentralized financing with rules. Some of the rules will be written, a lot of them will be unwritten, but I do believe that this is a massive trend that is just getting started. And right now, the SEC and the Chinese government has slowed it down because it really needs to figure out how to actually work in reality. But I think for now, I think you're completely right that ICOs is a dead game for some time, especially with the governments able to regulate them for now. But in time, they won't be able to regulate them.
Exactly. And I wish they wouldn't. I don't want them to. I kind of like Darwinism in this industry where dumb people do dumb shit with their smart money and get hurt, and then they learn from it. Basically, regulations on ICOs to me is a do not eat label on a rat poison bottle. If you need a label on rat poison that says do not eat to not eat it, I kind of want you to eat it. Like, you're ruining the whole experience of life for everybody. The regulations on ICOs is the equivalent of locking up Tide Pods in Walmart. So I have to get in a manager so I can go get my Tide Pods so I can do my laundry. Do you see all the extra steps I had to go through to do some normal shit? That's an ICO to me. I feel like regulation needs to stay out of it in that sense, because that's what got me into crypto, the permissionlessness of investing. I wanted to put 10 bucks into something. Shit, I can do it. I didn't have to have $100 million as a brokerage or be a part of a team or any of this. I just buy some Bitcoin, I invest it. That's it. I didn't have to jump through hoops. I didn't have to prove myself. I didn't have to have a certain, I didn't have to be an accredited investor. I hate accredited investors. All that stuff. I like the freedom of being able to do dumb shit with my smart money and figure it out as I go. I don't want to be told, life. I don't want to wear, and I want to learn where to duck and where I can walk tall safely.
Well, let's face it though. The whole point of regulating regulating ICOs, which is silly enough as it is, because ultimately in time people will just go offshore. If you say, well, you need to have U.S. accredited investors, you say, all right, well, I'll do it from an offshore thing in the Canary Islands, and I'll sell it to Japanese people. I mean, this whole thing is so silly because that's what's ultimately going to happen.
You're right.
But the thing is, these regulations, they're not there to protect the investors. They're there to protect the legacy financial system. They're there to protect Goldman Sachs's franchise,
pay to play, baby,
selling stocks and bonds. I mean, it's not rocket science. So they're basically saying, by doing this, the SEC meaning the U.S. government, is basically saying, we are scared of Bitcoin, so we can't stop Bitcoin, but we still have the ability to stop some of the on-ramps. Like if someone wants to do financing and we know who they are, like if it's, if they wanted to stop like Simon Dixon, if Simon Dixon was trying to sell to U.S. investors, which I doubt he was, then they could stop him. So he'll just go somewhere else. But in the meantime, most of these U.S. companies and U.S. ideas think, look, I got to go to the U.S. and now I can't do it anymore. And same thing's going with China. But ultimately, in time, it won't matter. They won't even be able to stop ICOs, let alone stop Bitcoin, which they
decentralized exchanges, man, it's going to change the game. They can't. Once there's decentralized exchanges that we can actually trust and use without these kinks and bugs, which is probably not that far away, considering that the people that are developing these decentralized exchanges have the best incentives ever. They want to use them themselves. So I'm so excited to see where government regulation actually holds its weight in a world of decentralized exchanges. And even with things like decentralized internet, like I love the idea of Nexus Earth and all that, because using decentralized money on a centralized internet kind of freaks me out a little bit. But there are decentralized internets being designed because of this. People are being incentivized to build things that they could use to better quality their life. Decentralized exchanges, decentralized internets. And if they keep trying to force regulations on these centralized things, it will just flourish more decentralized versions of those things.
Yes.
So they're screwing themselves by trying to screw us.
The decentralization genie is out of the bottle. That's what this revolution is about.
100%.
Technology that has enabled what was always centralized to be decentralized, because there's 7 billion people in the world, or 7.5 billion, and only a very small handful are the people that have controlled it. But now, because this technology, the 7.5 billion are going to be able to control it, and there's nothing they can do to stop. And the other thing about this whole, like, say, the U.S. government saying, "Oh, we're gonna regulate ICOs," because they say what to themselves. Well, I mean, people still need money, right, to buy the Bitcoin to pay for the ICO. So if we stop them, if we stop these on ramps, if we stop the banks from funding the buys of Bitcoin, then we can stop it, because that's ultimately the only way they can, quote, stop ICOs is by preventing money from buying the Bitcoin that's needed to buy the ICOs. But the thing is, people, and this is probably the most important thing you'll get from this call, there's going to be, well, look, we've talked about the trillions that are going to migrate from fiat currency to crypto. This is the monetary death cross. It's happening as we speak. And what we saw in the fall was just a taste. That was an appetizer. when the sector went from basically no market cap to $800 billion in a matter of months. We are going to see, frankly, I would be shocked if it doesn't happen in the next 12, 24 months. We are going to see a pump, and I don't mean the word pump. We're going to see a growth in the cryptocurrency sector, warts and all, but of course, Bitcoin will be the king. That will make the other one pale in comparison. There will be so much money that's coming into this sector when it gains momentum that at some point we won't need the on-ramps anymore. The crypto sector will be worth so much that people who want to do ICOs, say you want to buy an ICO, you'll have so much money worth of crypto. You won't need to buy more crypto to buy ICOs with. So the government will be cut off from a source of stopping ICOs. And that's when the end game for the banks really begins. And that's when you're going to see the banks start buying Bitcoin with whatever fiat they can get. And then you get a whole new level of FOMO that takes you to this new world.
I think that's what Goldman Sachs Circle Pay's acquisition of Poloniex kind of did. It kind of was like, oh shit, it's real. And then JP Morgan the next day says, look, guys, I know that Jamie said that this thing was a scam, but it's actually competition to our business model, and it threatens the bottom line of all banking institutions. So we should probably take this serious. So I read those articles back to back, and I was like, well, I'm buying more Bitcoin. I'm sure many people did.
Well, Jamie Dimon has backtracked on those comments. He said, about a month ago, he said, I'm sorry he said that, which for a guy like him is the equivalent of saying I was completely wrong. It was like Fonzie saying, I'm so sorry. Because he knows he's wrong. And of course, the next thing you know, JP Morgan will be buying Bittrex. In fact, put that out there, because that's going to happen. If Goldman is buying Poloniex, someone's going to buy Bittrex, and it's going to be a big bank, right?
No, because people, dude, that just blew my mind, because they have to. They have to. If they don't, they're in trouble.
Of course they do. Look, people, again, if you weren't aware, Circle, this whatever Circle is, some venture capital failed.
It used to be like Venmo.
Yeah, but the point is they are a crypto firm that has funding, and guess who's the biggest funder? Goldman Sachs owns a third of it. They and guess what? They bought Poloniex last week, and they have a game plan. The game plan is to be the first, quote, regulated altcoin exchange. And I don't just mean like Ethereum. I mean like all of Poloniex coins. And then they could add Be Private or whatever they want to add to it.
Or delist whatever they want. So be careful, guys.
Yes, or delist. You're absolutely right. But the point is that statement, and again, look what the price has done since. I mean, yes, there's a lot of other factors, but I mean, Bitcoin's gone up like $2,000 since that announcement in a week. Yep. It's a big announcement, people. I'm telling you. It's a big announcement.
$400 million worth of big announcement, guys. Yes. I mean, seriously, if you don't know or understand how much money that is, just try to comprehend it. It's a lot. And they could have just bought Bitcoin, but they bought a Bitcoin exchange instead. If that isn't a long-term investment, I don't know what is.
Well, you can bet that they bought Bitcoin too, even if they did it privately instead of in Goldman Sachs. So the point is, I mean, I'm sitting here screaming, this is a Wall Street guy. I'm telling you, look at me, people. This is like monstrous news, okay? This is Wall Street, not just hinting at. This is Wall Street saying, we are the biggest firm on Wall Street. We're the most ingrained in the legacy financial system and fiat currency. We are making a huge investment, not just in Bitcoin, in altcoins, in cryptocurrency. And you can bet that if Goldman Sachs is doing it, that all the other big banks are next. You saw this Liechtenstein bank the other day. It says they're offering now direct cryptocurrency purchase and storage. They're all going to do that because that's where all the money is going to be. They don't care about the fiat system. They care about making money. And that's
insured cold storage. That's all banks are going to be soon. Insured cold storage, safety deposit boxes with your private keys in them, with some kind of encrypted backup on their server in case the bank gets hit with a missile. That's all banks are going to be. That's it. Think of banks as public storage for your Bitcoin. That's in the end. That's it.
Because we talked.
And Coinbase is AOL, so we'll get past that too.
Well, we won't even need centralized exchanges, but Coinbase absolutely shot themselves in the head. I hope they made a lot of money with their insider trading that they're now getting sued for.
Yeah. I hope that comes to light too, man. I really do, because that's where I would want regulations. I don't want it anywhere else. Regulate the centralized exchanges. Regulate the shit out of them. Make them responsible for their actions and hold them accountable to those actions, and use that regulation. But don't regulate me, the independent solo customer. Regulate the guy taking advantage of me that just pump and dumped Bitcoin Cash on me on GDAX. Like it was a joke.
Yeah, and by the way, it would be awesome if Roger Ver and CNBC. I mean, we're talking about if you watch the TV show Forensic Files, this is a no-brainer. I mean, this was so ugly what happened in January. But you know, in the big picture, if you're a Bitcoin holder, didn't change your life any. And guess what?
Right on.
You know, it killed Coinbase, it killed CNBC, and it killed Bcash. So that's great. And last point on banks. You know, we talk about the internet, how it you know, the internet Amazoned things, but not everything equally. The thing the internet, if you're talking about a business sector that it destroyed the most, it's retail. I mean, literally, Amazon alone has destroyed retail. Good for the public, but for the retail sector. And when you talk about about cryptocurrency, yes, it has an impact on everything in the world, but nothing more than banking and money. I mean, it is literally destroying fiat currency and banks. And as you say, there will be no need for banks at all going in the future. So you better, if you're Goldman Sachs or if you're the community bank, you better be buying Bitcoin because that's your only chance to even be in business. And I'll take that to our last topic, because if we're talking about the banks are going to have to buy Bitcoin to survive, well, the next step is, of course, countries. And I have for a long time said that I believe the Bank of Japan has been buying hand over fist. I think the Bank of Japan is going to be possibly the wealthiest country in the world because they've embraced cryptocurrency, and they've done it before. They've risen from the ashes. But now what you're seeing is smaller countries starting to realize it. Bulgaria did it by accident. Now Venezuela, you know, I won't even talk about the petro, but the point is they're looking at it. You know, Money Triggs is saying there's in Aruba, they're creating a new currency. The Marshall Islands just created a sovereign cryptocurrency with a cap. I mean, how long will it be before the countries realize that cryptocurrency is a way to not only beat fiat, but actually become wealthy?
With a cap? I'm still stuck that it has a cap. That's
24 million Marshall Islands coins.
That is interesting. I mean, I like the ideas. It's interesting, but if it's a cryptocurrency and it's tradable, it could compete with Bitcoin's market cap, right? It's a new market cap. It has money in its market cap that could be in Bitcoin's market cap, but it's different use, right? Bitcoin's going to have its non-government uses, and these government-issued cryptocurrencies will be used like we use fiat for eggs, bread, and milk. But yeah, I like the concept of trying to get out your country, get out of poverty by creating a cryptocurrency. I talked to Adam Meister a little bit about this, and he woke me up to that whole 80% of those people investing will put money into this to make it worth more, and it will kind of even out the distribution of wealth instead of it being like the 1%ers. We can kind of even that out with this. So yeah, to see like a country that could be in a position where it needs funds, and you know, America's not dropping, you know, crates of food or whatever the case may be, they could just have an ICO for their country or something, or create a cryptocurrency. And the fact that it had a cap is really interesting.
Well, look, the trend is that the money is leaving fiat. This is the ultimate monetary death cross. The money is leaving fiat and going to crypto. It's not all going to Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin can't get everything. And we're talking about trillions of dollars here. They can go in all different things. And yes, the Marshall Islands coin may have some added benefits of using in the Marshall Islands over Bitcoin if it's managed correctly. Yeah. And I mean, who knows what the percent appreciation of it will be relative to Bitcoin. But let's say it does well. People trust it. They go, you know what, these guys in charge there, they actually have a decentralized blockchain. It's better than holding US dollars and Japanese yen, and it does very well. Well, guess what? The Marshall Islands government could get wealthy, and it's a model for other countries. So what does that do? It makes more fiat currency leave the system. And guess what? And guess what? Bitcoin is the reserve currency of cryptos. So eventually some of those Marshall Island cryptos will probably go into Bitcoin as opposed to stocks and bonds.
Yeah, and now it's proven that fiat's dead. Like this thing right here, this is just your public address.
What is that thing? Yeah,
it's dirty. I gotta wash my hands when I'm done. But
it's laundered. It's laundered.
This is your public address right here, and you don't get your private keys. So this is a scam. That's a scam. The Federal Reserve keeps all the private keys. You don't get any private keys. And I can print this for a lot less than it's worth to make sure it's not fake, right? So I can make dollar bills, these things, at a rate that cannot be stopped. And it's cost effective. I can print and print and print and print and print. As long as it's not a 50 or 100, this is actually something I can keep making plenty of copies of and probably get away with it. But you can't do that with crypto. And I do see the cashless society and the war on cash. I do worry a little bit about that war on cash going to crypto, where the government just wants to track everybody's money movement. If I gave you 10, somebody else $10, they know that that $10 originally came from me, went to you, and then to him through their crypto blockchain.
That's the Don Quixote flailing at windmills. That's the final straw. When you do something that dumb, it's almost like when China did that last year, banning crypto, and then the price that Bitcoin went from 3,000 to 20,000. And if the U.S. did it, I'm not talking about ICOs.
Oh,
if the U.S. did it, that is the death.
I'd be rich.
Yeah, because you're basically admitting that it's, and it was the same thing when gold mattered. It was like if they try to confiscate it now, blow it overseas because
you didn't have a yacht.
Was admitting it was scared of it.
Yep.
So you know,
I've been saying that, dude. If Donald Trump ever said Bitcoin is illegal, I am rich. We're all rich because the black market for illegal cryptocurrency that has the risks of being thrown in federal prison. I mean, dude, you just made it $1 billion like coin.
Then again, you don't need a black market because crypto trades on the internet, and
they would consider that the black market, though, right? I mean, it would just move to that sector. It'd still be the same thing. I mean, I know people that sell crypto on the streets. Like I talked about this. The new Error hustle is selling crypto on the street corner. Buy it in bulk from your supplier, break it down into crypto bits, hustle those bits out like nickels and dimes. I see people hustling crypto all the time. And if they decided to make it a gray area, it's just going to make their job more profitable. And I don't think they're going to do that. That would be so bad.
It won't even get to that. You know, the way that I've always said, I wrote an article years ago when gold mattered. It was like 2011. I said priceless precious metals versus worthless dollars. And I said, you know, the governments only do things reactively. You know, they don't just come in and say, oh, we're confiscating gold. They do it when the dollar's crashing and gold surging. Everyone's talking about it. And the same would go for Bitcoin. Like, you know, if we have the kind of FOMO surge I'm talking about, and it gets to 50,000, which it will, and people are starting. I mean, look what's going on in fiat currency now. The markets are in turmoil. They're talking about raising QE, interest rates going up. Everyone is the debt is exploding. I mean, you know, you could have that crisis. So, I mean, it's that we're not there yet. But if we get to that point and they start attacking crypto, it's just, I mean, it's already the cat's out of the bag. The game is over.
Yeah, that would be them admitting it. If they attack it, they admit it. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's never going to happen because the power, the growth of Bitcoin and crypto is going to be so powerful that it will get to the point probably within a year or two that the government, even if they said stuff like that, people would laugh at it. I mean, they already laughed at the Chinese government. They will be laughing at any government that tries to stop it. And look, in Europe, you got 25 countries. Half of them are probably pro-Bitcoin. Bulgaria is in the European Union. So, I mean, okay, that ain't happening. Bitcoin is going to be too powerful to even be attacked. I want to go to the last topic again, because look, and no one is more credible on this topic than me because I sold my final gold recently. But more importantly, I got out of that business and have publicly said for some time that me, who was the biggest gold bull, now believes gold is pretty much dead. Silver is long dead, and Bitcoin is the king. But what we've seen this year, you know, because the stock market is never allowed to go down, but it has gone down somewhat in the first quarter because of all these things we're talking about. And what has happened during the first quarter? Gold doesn't do anything. Some days it's gotten smashed with the stock market. And what does Bitcoin do? Every time there's a drop in the stock market, it's surged. What does that tell you? I mean, are we not already past the point of discussing whether Bitcoin has usurped gold?
Yeah, no, we are, I guess, at this point. I mean, to even compare the two are so different. I don't even have any analogy to compare. It's like it's beyond apples to oranges, you know, and comparing gold to crypto, total apples to oranges. I can't compare it to anything, but it's funny to hear the argument of people say, oh, well, what if there's an apocalypse and we lose the internet? Your gold will not be currency. your bullets will be currency. If that is the case, I don't see anybody using shillings of gold to buy eggs, bread, and milk in an apocalyptic environment with no internet or anything like that. Who will determine how much gold is worth my eggs, bread, and milk? It's a failed currency in that apocalyptic mentality.
Well, look, put it this way. Again, I no longer think we're going to have an apocalypse, because I think Bitcoin alone is going to, because my issue is always, well, fiat's going to crash. And so what's going to be the future? There is no future. I mean, gold is good store of value during that time, but there's no end game. Now Bitcoin is the future. So I don't think we need to go through that apocalypse. But as you said, if there was a Mad Max scenario.
Yeah, just like the argument doesn't. It's so like you have to go that route. Yeah. Try to be more realistic.
Because this was my life for 15 years, and I believed it because at pre-Bitcoin, if you say, well, what would you own? Of course, you don't, precious metals, because they had been money forever. And yes, if there was a problem, what else is there? I never believed the barter case. In fact, I was very public, even at Miles Franklin, about how I didn't think junk silver had a use case once Bitcoin came around. But the point is, I mean, when you talk about what the future holds, when you talk about what were the arguments for gold and silver during a fiat crisis, and you go, well, gold is more liquid, and I'm going, well, I've been in the business a long time. Yeah, I mean, it's theoretically liquid because it's based on paper markets that are hedged by bullion dealers, so the price is relatively the same. I mean, if you go to a big dealer, you get a better price than a smaller dealer, but of course, then you have to ship it to the bigger dealer, and it's short and all that stuff. But the fact is, it's not really liquid at all. It's very hard to sell, and if there aren't a lot of dealers out there, and now the premiums, the sales are so weak that the premiums are plunging, so you don't get much for it. Plus, it's not fungible. Everyone wants to say, well, gold's fungible, one's the same as the other. Not really. How do you know if you have a gold coin in your hand, if it's the same amount of gold as the other?
You have to test it.
How do you even know that it's a gold eagle if you don't, I mean, unless you're like in the business and have the equipment? And it's divisible? Yeah, I guess the gold is divisible into 1/10 of an ounce, but not if you can't do it yourself. And on top of that, 1/10 of an ounce doesn't mean anything. And how do you do that with silver and junk silver, which is 90% silver to start with? No one will even know it's a junk. The whole thing, plus you got to ship it. And believe me, try to sell it, go through the logistics, try to store it. That's what makes me laugh when people think that millennials who are minimalistic in general are going to want to have safes full of silver. It's just a joke.
No, dude, that's what I tell people. Who's buying gold? It's not millennials. It's the same old people who have been buying gold all these years.
And they're not buying, and they're not buying it either, because
they're not even buying more of it. Exactly.
As I point out, look, I was in the bullion business for 6 years. I just left it. Bullion business is 90% buys, 10% sells of the public. And the reason the price never went up was because it was manipulated down by paper. But that's moot now, because now if you go to the dealers, more of the transactions at the dealers are people selling. So even the old people are selling because they're realizing that I'd rather own Bitcoin. I mean, it's exactly what's happening. It happened to me. It's happening to everyone else. So it's becoming even more liquid, which means, I mean, the industry when I left it 6 months ago was in shambles. And take a look now. There were only 5,000 gold eagles sold in the first month of the year. 5,000 in all of. I mean, last year they sold 50,000. I think they sold 150 or 200,000 a few years ago. There's like no one buying it at all. And then the only buyers really out there, it'll be like, well, look, the Chinese and Russians are still buying it. Well, yeah, the governments are, because I mean, they're printing rubles in yuan. Why wouldn't they buy gold with it? It's free money for them anyway. So, I mean, I'm just telling you, people. Silver long ago died. It's a base metal now, and gold is dying. And once the older generations, start passing on their wealth to the younger generations, they're going to buy Bitcoin with it. That's simple. And now you have countries that are buying Bitcoin. So once the Chinese are smart enough to buy Bitcoin, they realize our gold is worth nothing anymore. What do we even care about it anymore? Just sell it and buy more Bitcoin.
Yeah, before it's worth less Bitcoin. It's funny about gold.
Another good quote from Kenn Bosak. Absolutely.
We should probably make gold Bitcoin paper wallets or something, so we can make gold worth something again. Give it a real use case. Make a golden Bitcoin paper wallet, something. I don't know. I mean, gold's only use to me, like if I were to ever ever invest in gold, I would have to be a goldsmith or a jewelry designer. I would have to take that gold, make it into a necklace, and sell it to you at a 300% premium from the effort and money I put into it. That's it. That's gold's only use, is to be turned into something pretty and sold to a sucker who has more money than problems.
And you know what the funniest thing with that is, and that's, again, you know, you talk about someone who's going to be an historic poster boy for idiocy, Peter Schiff. In every way, there's just nothing about anything he's said and done that doesn't qualify for that moniker. And what he's said is, yeah, but gold's useful. It was used for jewelry long before it was used for money, etc. Right? I mean, first of all, it's apples orange. Who cares if people like it as jewelry? It doesn't mean they like it as money. But more importantly,
people buying digital jewelry. Digital jewelry ain't real.
I wrote an article called Digital Flowers because someone was telling me that they sent like flowers over the internet, like digital flowers, to their girlfriend, and they thought it was just as cool as getting like real flowers. But the thing is, people aren't even buying jewelry anymore. You know, I talk about the millennials being minimalistic, or the Indians getting more into crypto than they are into gold, especially because their idiot prime minister has declared a war on gold. And the point is that jewelry demand's going to go down. Are you wearing it? Well, you are wearing a necklace, but I don't see as much jewelry as I used to.
No.
Oh, it's not a necklace. It's a hedge fund, so you can talk about Bitcoin. Point is, jewelry in general is becoming less valuable because people aren't buying it anymore, especially when
it's risky. You're going to get robbed.
Yeah, look at these ridiculous prices you pay, these markups for what? So people can see that you have wealth on you that can be stolen.
Yeah, wear your wealth so somebody can take it, and then worry about your private keys later. Like, I'll wear a gold watch for 10 grand on my wrist, but I'll be a little concerned about my private keys. You're wearing your private keys on your wrist.
Yes. Okay. Well, let's just end it here. It is a Saturday morning. Let's get on to our weekend. This was absolutely amazing. Everyone, look, Kenn Bosak. He's at Kenneth Bosak, and his YouTube channel. Also, what were you doing? You said that you now are doing some podcasting. Above and beyond what you were doing.
Yes, my personal YouTube channel is like full on just me and my craziness, but I do have the more professional, like suit and tie type of interviews I do with pureblockchainwealth.com. You can check them out on YouTube. Most recently just interviewed Amanda B. Johnson, so that should be airing today, I believe.
Oh, is that the Future Money Trends people? Or
yes, Future Money Trends, Crush the Street, and Pure Blockchain Wealth.
Right. And I, of course, everyone knows that I've been associated with them for a long time. In fact, I've been friends with Dan Amadori, who runs Future Money Trends.
Yeah,
from
that man's
way
awesome.
Back in 2010, when he was at the National Inflation. He did all their videos. He's amazing. Those people.
Well, he does the newsletter. So if you guys are interested in the free crypto newsletter, it's on pureblockchainwealth.com. It's totally free. And yeah, Dan's the man.
Yeah, Dan does Future Money Trends. His brother Kenn, who's awesome, does Crush the Street, which is really does a lot of cryptocurrency related podcasts. These are the salt of the earth, guys like me who transitioned also when they saw the world was changing. So again, go to Kenn Bosak to his YouTube channel, to his Twitter feed. We'll have him on the show here again. Kenn, have a great weekend, and to everybody else, have a great crypto day.
Have a day, guys.